Jim, can you hear us? Should I unmute these? They're not happy? No, not happy. Great. Okay, are you guys all ready? We're good. Okay. All right, the time is 5:33. It's February 10th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Silverton Housing Authority. Call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, Melina. Trustee Hobson. Here. Trustee Wakefield. Here. Trustee Shipman. Here. Trustee Gardner. Here. Trustee George.
Here.
Member Tim Harper.
Here.
Here. Thank you. All right, I'll take it over to you, Anne. Okay, that's put public comment on the agenda. Oh, right. So I didn't want to close that before we take that now or at the end. Do you have a preference based on what's being discussed? Okay. Does the board have a preference? No. All right, why don't we do it at the open meeting? All right, so we'll take public comment. If you're in person and you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium. If you're on Zoom, which there are many, if you come on Zoom, you can make a public comment on Zoom. Do we have any in-person public comment? Okay, we will close public comment. Thank you. Okay. The first item is approval minutes. I don't have the
Summary time.
thank you. Did anybody have questions, comments, changes to the meeting minutes? Not me, nope. Great, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 12/9/2024.
Summary.
Second. All right, roll call please, Maria. Trustee Harrison. Yes. Trustee Wakefield.
Yes.
Trustee Shipman.
Yes.
Trustee Gardner. Yes. Trustee George.
Yes.
Member Tim Harper.
Yes.
Great. All right, go ahead. The next one is resolution 2020-501, the SJVA homeownership program. So according to our Silverton Affordable Housing Guidelines, the board can add housing programs into the guidelines, and the programs can have their own rules. They can govern themselves. But this resolution would be amending the Silverton Affordable Housing Guidelines to include the San Juan Development Association homeownership program. The reason why I'm bringing this to you today is because San Juan Development Association partnered with San Juan County and then 318 contracting to build 4 units in Anvil. And that started back in 2021. In 2023, San Juan Development Association did a application to sell 3 of the units. And there are 3 applicants. 2 have sold to date, and the 3rd applicant has been struck out in the middle of January. So now we have a house that doesn't have anyone on the wait list. And so the board of San Juan Development Association gave direction to staff to approach the Silverton Housing Authority Board about potentially operating and administering the application process, but also managing the deed restriction and affordability covenants attached to the property. Since the establishment of the Silverton Housing Authority, capacity has increased to take on such things. San Juan Development was sort of the what's the metaphor? The pathfinder, here, I don't know. Trailblazer, there it is, for affordable housing in Silverton. And now that the housing authority has been established and we have these guidelines and these rules and procedures, it seems like a natural transition. So the proposed plan would be to amend the guidelines to incorporate this program. And the program is attached as an exhibit in your resolution. And these will be the rules and provisions governing this house into the future. And since the board or the packet went out last week, revisions have been made to Exhibit B, so the San Juan Development Ownership Program. It's updated on the Google Drive link, if that's the one that you're looking at. And I'm happy to walk through those changes. But I'm gonna leave it at that and leave it to you all for questions and further clarification that you need from me.
Questions? For any from the board?
I don't have any questions. I really think it makes perfect sense to do this.
One thing I did want to highlight is the qualification standards for the initial application are different than what are in the guidelines. They're much more lenient. The thought behind that is we were expecting to close on this house last week, and now we have to reopen the application. It has its certificate of occupancy, like this is a house that's ready to house people, and so we want to get it moving, but also just wanting, there's some issues with the guidelines potentially with fair housing, and so this is sort of a response to some comments that we got from the Division of Housing for our annual townhomes application. So yeah, I'm happy to speak more to that, or if anyone has any issues, we can brainstorm how to solve that.
Could you clarify what those grounds and concerns were?
So, basically, we're not requiring employment in San Juan County, residency. Well, like there could be an argument that that's not violating their housing act. It's like best practice to keep it as open as possible. And so the way that I've drafted this is the minimum standard that everyone has to meet, no exceptions, is you have to make 80% AMI or less. Like absolutely no exceptions to that. But I am proposing bonus entries for vital workforce, local workforce, and then I changed it to residency from the or qualified retired, because you can't discriminate based on age. I had a really hard time defining retired without using an age. And so if you've lived here for at least a year, you get extra entries. But we could also scrap the bonus entry thing entirely and just have it be the income qualification.
So just to clarify, we're more in line with the intention of the fair housing guidelines and best practice if it's open to all, but we also can add these bonus entries based on board priorities.
We do start to walk a line though, with equal opportunity.
Yeah.
A little blurry, the lines are really blurry there, so that is a risk actually that we would be taking if we decided to do the bonus entries. But legal has approved this as is, so. Yeah,
Wouldn't that be more in line with the guidelines that we've set out already?
to have bonus entries.
Yeah. So just,
And with like the goal of our
Yeah.
organization, we just talked about this at length, and I think it makes sense to do that if we're allowed to.
So is there moving forward on taking on the application process and managing the subdivision as a division? And I think you said it, like you have capacity for managing this application.
I'm making it happen.
Okay.
But yes,
Okay.
I mean, I'd have to do it either for San Juan Development Association or the housing authority. So.
Yeah.
But as far as looking into the future, it would just be like annual compliance checks, which is good. But
Because
homeowners-
the other units that were sold did not fall under the Silverton Housing Authority guidelines with all of those requirements. Yeah, so this unit would be added on to future units that fall under the guidelines. Okay, so I'm hearing support for taking this on, considering Ian's capacity. Is there any comment or feedback on, I think the notable points would be the application process, right? Like how it fits within our other guidelines, and sensing that because it generally fits with our guidelines that we already approved and adopted, there's agreement on that. So any strong opposition to doing this differently. No, okay. One thing, Gloria and I meant to kind of talk through the timeline, and so I just want to make sure everybody's kind of aware on how this could work. Like if there was an appeal, if there happened to be an appeal, it would, like the appeal hearing and the waitlist drawing would happen the same day. So just making sure that we're ready for that's a possibility. And if we potentially made a determination on that appeal, that person could or could not be included in the waitlist that day. That appeal was successful. Obviously, we're tonight. Is that a fair way to say that? Any questions on the timeline or the guidelines? Alrighty. One big detail in here, and so I think we need a motion. On
And
page 9, yeah, go ahead.
the one thing I would add to the motion would be with conditions that the reception number and date of recording of the affordability covenants be administratively updated to the guidelines. So like right now, the draft just says on the first page of it, it says the affordability covenants filed on blank blank 2025 at reception number blank blank blank. But that just needs to be updated once that's filed.
Okay,
But I'll need direction or like some sort of approval from the board to do that.
can you give me that language one more time of how you'd like it?
So-
said?
It would be option number 2.
Yep.
With the following conditions.
Yeah.
That the reception number and date of recording of the affordability covenants be administratively updated. Sorry. Hard to make it easy, but it's not, it's a whole sentence.
It'll be updated.
Administratively.
The recording of the affordability.
Covenants.
Okay. See if we can tee this up for it.
And we're moving away from deed restriction to affordability covenants. Just for industry best practice.
All right, say it one more time, please. The reception number and date of recording of the affordability covenants.
Be administratively updated.
Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2025-01, a resolution of the Housing Authority of the Town of Silverton, amending the Silverton Affordable Guidelines to incorporate the SJDA homeownership program with the following conditions: that the reception number and date of recording of the affordability covenants will be administratively updated. So second. Lindsay.
Trustee Hilberson,
Yes.
trustee Whitfield,
Yes.
trustee Schicker,
Yes.
trustee Gardner. Yes. Trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper.
Yes.
Yes. Great, hopefully that will be clear for everybody.
And then the
Thanks, Ian.
second one is I need a motion to enter as a party to the 735 Martha Rose affordability covenants with San Juan County and 9318 contracting.
That's right, Laura.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to enter as a party to 735 Martha Rose affordability covenants for the San Juan County and 9318 contracting, I'm sorry.
Second.
Trustee Halverson? Yes. Trustee Whitfield?
Yes.
Trustee Schiffer?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Ann, that was a lot to deal this up.
Yeah, thank you. And then just for, the public, the application will launch tonight at midnight. It'll be open for 30 days until March 11th at 11:59 p.m. And, the application can be found on the Silverton Housing Authority website under home ownership application. And the application packet will have all of the instructions and forms necessary. If anyone needs accommodations or translation services or assistance in completing the application, they may contact me. Yeah, I'm excited to open up another opportunity for
Nice.
home ownership.
And I know you do such a great job promoting it, you'll post it.
Yeah,
Will this be going in the paper?
legal notice is going out on Thursday, and then potentially we'll run an article or some sort of more than a legal notice.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's already been announced on the newsletter.
And you had a lot of attendees at your home ownership program, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good start.
And then the final thing on the agenda is, requesting a special meeting on April 7th at 5 p.m. And that would be for the appeal hearing, if any, and the waitlist drawing.
Yeah, very good.
We got a wheel.
I was about to ask,
You're doing it as a wheel. Yeah.
That's
That's awesome.
And that's a normal, that's a Monday, so it's not a regular meeting, but we're all in the habit of conserving our Mondays, right?
Yeah, sounds great. Do you need a motion? No, okay.
I did send you all a tentative date. If you found it.
Yeah. Great.
And then just sort of the last announcement that I have is, presenting to the State Housing Board tomorrow. I have 2 minutes to pitch our project. And I sent you all the, through the meet link, you're not required to join, but it'd be from 2:30 to 3 is when I could potentially have my 2 minutes. But yeah, that's very exciting. We'll see.
You getting ready?
Yeah, I've been practicing my little script. You're at a minute 55 seconds.
Oh, good, go good. And you know, in the moment, you'll be a little nervous.
So go faster. Totally.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's it. That piece will be just such a huge. It has such huge potential.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Any other questions for Ann?
I've been meeting at 2 for work, but if I get out in time,
Sounds good. It'll be recorded too. If they want to go back and watch it. If you're not have to.
All right, the time is 5:52, and I'll adjourn the meeting in the Silverton Housing Authority. We'll convene at 6 o'clock for a special work session on the RV workforce housing ordinance. Mommy up there. Hey Jim, thanks for hanging around. All right, the time is 6:06. It's February 10th, 2025, and this is a work session for the Silverton Board of Trustees. We will be talking about the RV workforce housing ordinance review. I'm gonna kick it to Lucy.
Thank you. So this work session is to discuss the development of an ordinance to allow seasonal occupancy of RVs for qualified workforce. And one that addresses some of the issues that we've identified over the past few years. So this work session, comes after 4 P&O committee meetings and 1 board work session where the board, reviewed some of the findings from the P&O meetings, and directed staff to present, draft ordinance language, which you all have in front of you tonight. This language was informed by previous meetings and examples, from Estes Park and Uray and their, workforce RV programs. So in order to have an ordinance in effect by May 1st, which is typically the start of the season for seasonal RV occupancy, the ordinance would need to be introduced by March 10th, and the second reading approved by March 24th. So with that timeline in mind, the goal of tonight's work session is to address the board's comments and questions and receive direction on any edits necessary, and direction to present an ordinance for review on March 10th if you guys all want to move forward with that. So what I'm thinking for the plan for tonight is similar to previous meetings. I'd like to just work through the ordinance and receive direction line by line. But we only have a little under an hour, so we'll just need to move a little bit quickly. How does that sound to everyone? Good?
There's a lot of stuff we all agree on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So starting off with the use table and where this would be allowed. So what I included in your packet, is based on our current standards. So, the seasonal occupancy of RVs by qualifying workforce would be allowed in R1, R2, MU1, C1, and C2. And R1, was included also based on direction from the board that RVs should be allowed in R1 if properties are limited to 1 RV per property and generators are not permitted. So does everyone feel comfortable moving forward with the use table?
Yes.
Great. Moving down, to the dates that, it is allowed to occupy RVs. In our current ordinance, it's listed as May 15th to October 15th. However, this was changed to May 1st to October 31st to better reflect kind of our season and when businesses are open. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, great. And then the process. So, the process that we're looking at is using the temporary use permit application process, which is already outlined in the code. And this would require that the property owners would apply for a temporary use permit with all of the requirements. And then as well as written verification from an employer and a site plan detailing the proposed location. And the temporary use permit will have an expiration date, and it allows for administrative approval to streamline the process. So does everyone like this? Okay.
I am just wondering too, because as if the individual is self-employed, a valid business license or equivalent documentation shall be acceptable to verify employment.
Mhm.
Does that mean self-employed? Like in Silverton, or like if they own their own business,
Mhm.
not like if they're working remotely in,
Right.
right, okay,
Yeah, so this is based on the current language we have,
okay.
but requiring a business license, like I think would kind of nod to the fact that they're working in Silverton. But we can make that more clear if you would like.
No, that's fine, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
Question I have, Lucy, who's going through this is, and maybe we address it later down, is I totally understand again that the property owner is the one doing the permit. And the property owner, and then the employee owns the unit, the RV.
Right.
What wasn't clear to me is, does the property owner have to be the employer?
Not the way that this is.
Okay,
written.
that's what I was
Yeah.
just wanting to make sure,
Mhm.
like. It can be a property owner that's not the employer, it's just the
Mhm.
employee has to have verification of employment information.
Right,
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
So a property owner could rent a space technically,
Yeah,
or offer a space.
yeah, offer space, rent a space, yeah, but they do not have to be the
They don't have
direct
to be
employer.
employer. Yeah,
Mhm.
great, thanks.
So that brings me to a question. You say the property owner could rent them space. By doing that, we're cutting out the owners of the RV parks.
I mean, potentially, this is a competing unit. I would argue that we're at least doing it because we're not allowing multiple on many parcel, like, you only have one.
Right,
And
but you're still cutting out the RV park owner.
Yeah, should.
But are they different markets? When we talk about that last time, we like did the math. Cause like people come to RVs, it's mostly like, you know, week, month or whatever, whereas these ones are all summer.
Right, and this is already happening.
Yeah.
It is already happening even with our RV parks.
Right.
I'm not sure that our current RV parks could accommodate the demand we've been seeing. It seems like that was coming up. Do you think that's true or no?
No, after all, I saw this, some of there were like vacancies.
Well, but it's like the cost, right? It's like, I would live in an Airbnb and rent a house. You know?
Right, they are potentially different uses.
Yeah. And the purpose of this ordinance is really to expand the availability of some type of affordable housing. And we're kind of making an exception as RVs for affordable housing, understanding that this option is less expensive than potentially an RV park would be, but your comments are true and valid.
Are you advocating, Ron, that there shouldn't be seasonal RV usage?
Right, in my opinion, these should be belong in parks. Couple reasons. It isn't a real good look for our community, in my opinion. And we have the availability for, to go to these, where the other campers are.
I mean, I agree with you, but you can't afford to live in an RV park, I don't think, here to come, like, it's $70 a night in the off, like, the slow season.
And also on our P and O committee, I think, Jim had some great conversations with RV parks as well, and it seems like the affordability would match with the RV parks compared to, having them in town. But limiting it to one per property and not having on vacant land, I mean,
That's gonna be a
Like, it's
big change.
huge, yeah,
That's
it's
gonna
not-
be a big change.
So we're not gonna have 3 or 4 on.
right, yeah.
And we have all these regulations drafted to like, make sure that it's done in a hygienic and safe way. I think that's, for me, that's really important to see. How these all come together to thoroughly kind of cover some of the concerns.
In all the things we need to do, it looked to me like the compliance officer be really busy trying to keep up with all of that.
That's my biggest issue and concern about this too, with the
I mean,
enforcement.
how do you know if they're dumping their tanks, on a regular basis?
And that would hopefully be covered in the site plan, to talk through that with the owner and their initial application. But that there was so many issues last year, that's why we brought this back up, is this was an ordinance already adopted. And we're trying to refine it so that you can manage it a little better.
Yeah. I think Ron, your points are really valid and it's totally reasonable for you to have an opinion that I don't think we should have seasonal RV usage. I think that we've come to a point where this has been happening for what was here in here for a while. And we need some ways to regulate.
And then another question comes up, how are you gonna bill the water and sewer rates and trash with all these people?
Yeah, and
So
that's,
look, I'll let you get back, Lucy, to our line item kind of review, but I think, because I think that we can address each of those points. I just want to ask a clarifying question of, doesn't have to be, property owner does not have to be employer,
that's correct.
and that's.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk through all these standards and the EQRs in a second. So getting into the site and operational standard, we've kept the permitted vehicle types the same, but we've added tiny homes based on previous conversations. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. And then as we have discussed, the recreational vehicle would need to be owned by the occupying qualified employee, and the property owner could not be the owner and lease it out to someone, right? As we discussed. And then we added in a provision that each recreational vehicle must have current registration and display a valid license plate, so we would just check that during the temporary use permit application process. This is a current standard in the MU1 district. Recreational vehicles shall be located in the back half of the property. Based on P&O recommendation and board discussion, backed up by Estes Park, this was not unanimous direction. We've included a provision that states that no more than one RV is allowed on any given property. Do we want to discuss that, or is people okay with the way that this is written?
It seems like it's definitely a departure from practice. And I think I heard from this board last time that that was intentional, that we didn't want unregulated mini RV parks popping up.
Right.
I recognize that for property owners, this is gonna potentially have an impact. For employers, this is gonna potentially have an impact. I'm just gonna pitch my idea out there again. Employer-owned boarding house is a direction you could take that desire. Just putting it out there.
It'd be a better look for the town.
Yeah.
The grocery store.
Yeah.
Like the good old days.
Yeah. So is there any, do we want to hold any more on this? We're really saying limiting one per lot.
Not one person, but
Or one per property.
For property, yep. Yep. And then additionally, there's a provision that says that, the RV needs to meet setbacks. And then the next two provisions are new, based on discussion and based on what Estes Park and URI do. That the property, shall contain an existing structure that provides a water tap, and that the water for the RV, will come from that source. So it could be hooked up by a hose, or other mechanism to get water from the property itself.
And this is also the line item that would imply that you could not have a unit on a vacant lot.
Right. Mhm.
Which again, is the departure from historic practice.
Yes.
So just so we're all acknowledging that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. The next one just states that hoses, cords, those types of things cannot cross property lines or encroach onto public right of way. And then the next two sections are about sewer hookups. So there's two options in this ordinance. One, either an RV could be hooked up to a sewer clean out on the property, which some people have suggested that be done. Also, this is what's done in Estes Park. Or alternatively, if that's not an option, the next provision says that the RV must dump an interval that does not exceed 3 to 5 days. Just to ensure that the area is, hygienic and that things are being disposed of properly.
So I think this brings up Ron's valid point of how do we feel at the town level of enforcing this? And let me ask you the clarifying question. So what you're saying is Estes Park only allow these on lots where there's going to be a sewer hookup or discharge hose?
That's right. Mhm. And alternatively, URA allows people to dump at a dump station.
And Do you know how URA enforces it?
I have tried to get a hold of their community development department and they are going through a transition, so I haven't heard that. I think they're working on that.
Do we have it at the town level, just how I mean, it seems easy enough to do the use permit, easy enough to do the site plan, all these other pieces feel doable to me, this is the one that stands out as a little bit like. Here,
It's definitely trickier and there's an onus on the property owner for this, that we're approving. So if like there was any foul smells or anything like that coming out, they would then be in violation of this. But we wouldn't necessarily go and check to make sure that their sewage has been dumped every few days.
it'd be a reported type of violation.
And noted in the ordinance that they would agree to, basically, so it would, no.
Thoughts from the board, creative ideas? Opinions?
I mean, would it be easier just to follow suit of Estes Park and do it as long as they have a sewer hookup, like direct sewer hookup and not even allow the dumping of like water tanks? Like for enforcement wise, would that be easier?
From what I understand about how that process works, that could potentially be limiting to where RVs could be placed.
Right.
Which is why,
Very limited.
exactly, which is why we wanted to include both options.
I think we have to acknowledge that with these regulations, we're definitely changing the number of seasonal RVs that will be available to rent, which is not a bad thing. We're having a little bit of a challenge managing the volume. Again, none of these things are written in stone. If we try out these regulations for this summer and we see areas where they need to be tweaked, we can always revisit this. How does staff feel about that kind of approach?
What's the penalty for violation? It would be the same as any code,
Like
penalty, unless we,
nuisance kind
yeah,
of violation?
right.
Up to $300.
I've just, the incentive not to violate it. Right, it smells bad, no neighbors are gonna notice.
Yeah.
So is there desire to move forward with not requiring a sewer hookup? And see how it goes, or do we want to require a sewer hookup?
If we go that route, I'd require a sewer hookup.
I think I'd be more on the side of that.
Recognizing how many spaces we're limiting.
Yeah, how many places have sewer hookups then? Cause that's like a fairly specific.
Yeah, I think in my conversations with Bevan, we've only maybe identified one property that would have that.
Oh, that has that.
It's,
I mean,
it's
you'd be
yeah,
intending to have RV hookups on your property.
right,
Yeah, that is super limiting.
it's very different from, getting water,
Right.
it's a different situation.
Jim, I wanna make sure that you get a chance to add anything here. Thoughts?
Thank you. I think if we require sewer hookups and make that mandatory, I think you're gonna see zero RVs because and I think I heard someone just say it, that there are probably a handful around town. So to me, I think that's maybe asking a little too much. The only other question I had was with regards to setbacks and putting RVs in the back of properties. Knowing how the alleyways are set up and how they're going to get there, and are people going to go around and measure the setbacks? I just don't want to create a problem with staff and with folks getting ticky-tacky with neighbors and with other people around town because they don't like what they're seeing. Just thinking about pitfalls.
Yeah, in terms of the setbacks, so that would be addressed during the temporary use permit application process. Where they would give us a site plan and show us where the RV will be, on the property.
Yeah.
And they would be, held to that, they would have to keep that there, so if, one day the RV was parked, almost in an alley, then that's when that would become an issue.
Right, you're doing a more desk review and approval,
Right.
where it's being located. And you'll hear about it.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any strong argument to not have setbacks in the ordinance? I mean, you wanna know as part of the application where these things are going to be, right? Yeah, okay. I tend to agree with Jim on the sewer. I think that we are already pretty significant, or we are definitely having an impact on the number of units that will be available. And I kind of feel like we should try that out and see what the effects are. And again, I'm all about creating market dynamics for people might do different things with their properties. That's not a bad thing. But I think that requiring the sewer hookup, even though I think that's more ideal from a neighborhood and compliance perspective, I think if we do that, there's no point in having this ordinance. Because then they'd be the RV parks.
Mhm.
So how will you do your dump then? You'll have to move the trailer every 3 days or however it was set up?
Yeah, where in town can you take it? I forget.
The RV parks allow.
You can go and you can just go and take
Yeah.
it.
I think all of them do, don't they?
Yeah, and that's what RVs are currently, the RVs that have been here in previous summers, that's how they dispose of their sewer.
We hope.
Yeah, I don't think that's ridiculous, like to ask. I think people that live in their RVs know how to deal with that, and it's pretty regular, actually, just as it's regular for us to take our garbage to the dump, and and people are like, how do you deal with not having a pickup service? We just do, it's fine, I agree that it's something to be concerned about, but I don't think that. Aside from like the one example that was posted on Facebook and looked really gross.
Right.
I don't think we've seen it being a huge issue.
It's not easy to move one of those, once you set it up.
It's true, but someone who's living in their RV the whole summer, it's not dumping.
Well, I guess they probably don't wanna dump right next to where they're staying.
Yeah,
I
I
hope-
if someone has it on a piece of property, I don't think we've seen a lot of instances where they are not moving it.
I mean, usually when they come, they set it the whole summer and that's it.
No, I mean, I think that the other case that probably happens often is people are using the bathroom inside of like, whatever house they're next to.
It'd be a good business for somebody to come up with the truck that drives around and use these things.
Right? I think Bob Jones does that.
Yeah, I'm okay with them keeping it as is and seeing how it is after the summer. I think it'll be interesting to see how that is enforced, so every 3 to 5 days to make sure everyone's coming.
Mark, are we okay moving on from, what is that, 11?
Yeah, so next, we have that RVs shall be supplied with electricity from an on-site source. The use of generators is prohibited. This is another one that was based off of, board discussion, but not unanimous direction. But this is backed up by, URA and Estes Parks, program.
I think if we're gonna have units in all zones, I'd advocate against generators.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I mean, especially if we're not having them updated land, it's. I mean, it's not gonna be a doesn't make sense to have them, in my opinion, especially how hard it is to enforce those hours of operation. I know I've had my fair share of hearing generators going all night.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very for prohibiting it.
Okay.
Okay. Jim, did you have something? Go ahead, Jim. No, okay, sorry, like, raise your hand.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Okay, next, air conditioning units, are limited to the hours of 7 PM and 7 AM, and those numbers, come from our current noise ordinance. So that just matches our noise ordinance. Each recreational vehicle must be equipped with a fire extinguisher and a carbon monoxide detector. That just standard for safety. The occupancy of recreational vehicles is limited to one family consisting of no more than 3 adults and up to 3 minors. And alternatively, 3 unrelated adults. And this would be reviewed during the temporary use permit process. The permit would need to be visible. This is something that we've discussed wanting to have, so just included that.
Yeah, because to me, it feels like if people are going to not to be honest about how they're using this, who's in it, whatever, like at some level,
Yeah.
we are not the complete nanny town, but I do think at least having the compliance officer, code enforcement officer, you know, that it's visible and checked. That to me seems like the most important way to at least enforce this use permit
Right.
and make it have, legitimacy.
This next section, basically just allows the code enforcement officer, to enter the property to inspect the vehicle, and to inspect how everything's set up for, compliance with this section. And, sorry, this language just came from, URI, but, yep. And then, also just included a line that the RV must be in compliance with all state and, federal laws as well. We have another provision like this in the land use code for all uses. And this just, you know, puts the onus on the RV owner and the property owner to make sure that they're in compliance. And then, again, this is for an RV, this is not to erect any permanent structures. And lastly, noting that the property owner is responsible for ensuring the recreational vehicle is in compliance with the standards of the code.
Right, if we're writing a ticket, it's to the property owner.
Right, and hopefully this will, yeah, hopefully this will make code enforcement easier and we'll see less problems. So then for the review criteria, additional review criteria is listed in the temporary use permit, but specifically for this use, there's 3 criteria. The first is one that I mentioned in our last work session. I threw it out there and I never got direction, but I just wanted to bring it back up in case you all were interested in moving forward with this. But it states that no current nuisance set forth in the Silverton Municipal Code exists on the property where the recreational vehicle is to be located. So essentially that if there is a nuisance at this property, they have to address it before. Okay. And the property complies with all applicable zoning and building regulations. And the issuance of the permit balances safety, patrons, pedestrians, traffic, etc. So that, you know, if issuing this permit doesn't put anyone at harm with this. Mostly having to do with like the placement of the RV is where this would probably come into play. And those are the standards. And then we have a section on kind of EQRs and permit fees, but before we move into that, any questions or comments on what we've reviewed so far?
I just really wanted to thank the P&O committee, the staff that's involved with Steve, because again, we can have a variety of opinions, right? I mean, Ron's opinion is very valid, it's like, I think these should be in RV parks, and we can have another extreme of the opinion that says these should be on vacant lots anywhere, like, we need all the houses we can get, and I think what we have here is, I feel like something that kind of strikes a balance, and we're kind of have to see how it goes. We saw a lot of challenges with it, I think, over time as the volume has increased, and so I think this helps kind of codify this better. But let's see how it goes and
Yeah.
check in the fall.
Mhm.
I just want to thank, I know there's a lot of intention put into this with the P&O committee, and staff, so I really appreciate your that too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Will there be another work session on the short-term use of RVs or like visitors or like
It-
what, there is something new in the code for that as well? or-
yeah, we kept that section pretty much the same. But if you all want us to do that.
Maybe we should wait till our retreat and talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, Lucy, do you want to talk about EQRs and things?
Yes, so,
Jen, did you have a question before we moved on? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you much. Portable sewer tanks, portable sewage tanks is what I'm trying to say, sorry. Is that applicable?
Say more, what do you mean?
yeah,
Say more, what do you mean, like if someone, yeah, go ahead, how does it work?
For example, if they don't have to remove the entire trailer or vehicle or what have you, there's portable sewage tanks that are on wheels that can be wheeled away. Is that going to be okay? Is that?
yes. The code as it's drafted right now just states that the RV's black water holding tank shall be emptied at an approved dump station at intervals that do not exceed 3 to 5 days. So I think that would be fine according to this, and unless you all see a reason, to put an explicit language, I think that it's okay.
It doesn't say how to do it.
Just as long as it's approved.
Thank you. And then the two more, sorry. The other one was number 8. That's 13, I guess. It says no air conditioning units on the roof between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. What about heating units? We don't have a huge problem being cold, but staying warm.
Maybe I'm wrong.
So just any units between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m.
I'm thinking though, isn't it more typical that the air conditioning units are much louder than the heating units?
So they have the compressor to run.
Right.
Mhm. And yeah, this really had to do with the noise,
Yeah.
why this was included.
No, it's perfect.
But
And then I just wanted to bring it up again that, and I know we discussed it and we had incredible conversations in all of our previous meetings. But doing the research and going to the different websites, the average night stay is between $82 and $86 for one night stay at an RV park. So I think what we're doing is a good thing. I think $100 a month is actually very good. And then also to dump water waste is between $13 and $17 each time you dump. So I mean, again, I think we're doing a good thing here. And it needs to be regulated. So I think this is good. So thank you.
The air conditioning piece. We want to change it. I would hesitate to say you can't run your heating unit, yeah, because I think the issue is noise, and I don't think there is noise. Yeah.
They're gonna get cold on some of those too.
Yeah, right.
But I think retaining the air conditioning.
Yeah, retaining the air conditioning, yeah. There is one of those, see how it goes?
Yeah.
There's a problem, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, maybe it's worthwhile, this is just thinking in the future, like, there definitely was kind of a public relations communication concern about the RVs last summer. That maybe we have a little, once this is adopted and enforced, have a little blurb in the newspaper about like, hey, I'm gonna check out, the trustees are requiring a new ordinance. You wanna check it out, here it is. If you have questions about it, contact town hall. If you're a property owner, contact town hall.
Yeah,
Like, these are the new guidelines, just to get the word out
right.
that to business owners that it's changed. And help community members know how we've addressed some of the concerns and to indicate that if people do have concerns as this is implemented over the summer, to contact Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe a little PSA.
yeah, I think that's a great idea, and sending it out to all the business owners.
Yeah.
Just so that they can tell their employees,
They have time to do that.
Okay, well, let's keep moving through. We gotta get through this before 7 o'clock. So we can move forward.
All right.
Jim, did you have any other points? Okay.
So in our previous discussions, we talked about implementing a application fee and then a permit fee. And currently we do not have either of those. So according to our fee schedule, a temporary use permit application fee is $500, so that would be applied. And then, if we want to, we can do a permit fee as well, and this is what Uri and Estes Park does. And can't remember which one's which, but one of them charges $100 a month and one of them charges $25 a week, so the same fee essentially applied differently. And the reason why one community charges $25 a week is because at any time, either the town could like revoke that permit or someone could decide to leave and no longer pay the fee. So if we are still interested in doing a permit fee, I was just wondering if you have any preference on which way we would go.
Administratively, would it matter? Like, would you have to come in and pay once a week?
Yes, so I think it would make the most sense, or you could pay it up front. You could pay the whole fee up front. But then if someone were to leave early, then that creates issues. So it might be easier to do a monthly fee.
Would it be prorated or not necessarily?
No,
We paid it for. That's the question you decide. What is the whole thing?
no way.
But, yeah.
Could we do both? That's like, you
Both
could,
options?
yeah, you could pay by month if you know someone's gonna be here for 3 months, but if they're only gonna be here for 2 weeks, just do the weekly.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can talk to
Yeah.
Melina more about this and flesh it out once we have the ordinance and the resolution in front of us, if you want us to come up with a recommendation.
I'd vote for whatever is easiest to administer, because then it's most likely to actually collect.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we will come up with a recommendation then when we present the ordinance and resolution if you guys.
And then
like.
permit fee would be billed, all of this, the application, the fee, and I assume now we're gonna talk about AQRs, just all go to the property owner,
That's correct,
right?
Yeah.
It's all through the property owner, and they get to figure it out on their other end. Yeah, because then we're not dealing with 20 seasonal worker temporary addresses or something.
Right, yeah, that's the idea. Yes, and then in terms of the EQR, this was recommended by Public Works by John. To implement a 0.4 EQR. And that would be approximately $50 a month.
And that is enough to cover trash.
That would cover water, sewer, stuff used, yeah.
Okay. And making it clear on the application that any of our fees do not include whatever someone's dumping fees. Right, it might be worth specifying that,
That's right, and that's where,
like, the campground is charging you a fee to use their facility to dump it, the town is charging you a fee to put your waste in our pipes and flush. Right. Yeah. All makes sense, yeah, that's tricky.
tricky. I do think it needs to happen though. The town hasn't been seeing the money from these RVs in previous summers, previous years.
And this feels good to me. The temporary use permit application fee. Can you remind me real quick, Lucy, what are some other temporary uses that we charge this fee for?
Other temporary uses would be like a temporary, like market, if you wanted to, you know, do like a pop-up sale.
Yeah.
Or like a temporary farm stand or something like that.
Yeah, so it could be something that someone pays multiple seasons in a row.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Those are all $500. Yes, all temporary use permits, as written in our fee schedule, is $500.
So this could end up being like, to the town, someone is paying, let's see, May, June, July, August, wait. Maybe not all of May, but like June, July, August, September, October, you've got 5 months. $500 for a permit fee, $500 for the application fee, and then $200 for EQR. What's, right, so we're at $1,200, did I do that right? $1,200.
So divided by 5,
Right. Oh, is that wrong?
$240 a month. That's a theoretical charge for rent. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Reasonable.
Yeah, I was just trying to think in my mind how much this would be. Okay, yeah, other questions on EQR billing, how we administer this, the fees? Melina, our main thought on the permit fee was just whatever's easiest to administer. You want to bill weekly, monthly, daily?
Really?
$2 Like that, it's like a meter thing.
Yeah.
Meter.
Yeah. That would be cute.
Okay, any other questions from the board on this ordinance? A lot of work has gone into this, wow. No, Jim, any other final questions, thoughts?
We're good. Thank you.
Okay, Lucy, anything else you need to know from that?
No, we will prepare an ordinance for March 10th, bring it forward, and then along with a resolution either on March 10th or on the next March meeting, to move forward with this. Great.
And it sounds like there were no edits.
No, I didn't write down.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for
it
the
will be as written.
Clarification, this is for all zoning areas.
correct, except for public. Can't go park it in the park. Right, park it on the school field. You know, I think that what I sense from the board is like, let's revisit this. If we can put this on the agenda for,
Yeah.
you know, maybe after budget season. Let's revisit this again in early 2026 and say, okay, what did we learn from the summer? How did it go? Do we need to adopt this? I think that's been very effective with this board. We've seen us do that with the traffic impact fee, with the Friday fee. So let's revisit that. That'd be my suggestion.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds great. Thank you all.
thanks, Lucy.
Yeah.
Way to go. Way to go, team, and committee work. I'm so impressed with this committee work. All right. The time is 6:50. I'm gonna adjourn the meeting for the trustee work session, and we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock for our regular meeting. We'll see you shortly, Jim. Can you hear us okay? Great. All right, the time is 7:02. It's February 10th, 2025. This is a regular meeting for the Silverton Board of Trustees. I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. Oh, we'll do pledge of allegiance. Sorry, thanks, guys. Anyone who wants to do pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, we've had a lot of meetings today, so if you want to go back and check, I'll have those meeting at 5:30, and it's a work session. All right, roll call, please, Melissa.
Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Wakefield.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Hartman. Here. Trustee George.
Here.
Member Tim Harper.
Here,
Mayor Craig.
Here, thank you. Are there any staff or board reasons to the agenda?
I would like to add resolution 2025-04 to the consent agenda, item 5G. This is to support the Bakers Park project, and the resolution was emailed to you all earlier today and updated in the Google Board packet. And it has also been discussed by the board, so.
Great, thanks. Any comments about including that in the consent agenda? Okay, thank you. All right. We don't have any in-person public comment, but if you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, this is the portion of our meeting for that. You will be, you can raise your hand and be promoted to panelists, and you'll have 3 minutes to make the comment. Do you have any comments on Zoom? All right, it doesn't look like it, so we'll close public comment. All right, we don't have any presentations and proclamations, so we move on to new business for a first reading of ordinance 2025-3, an ordinance amending chapter 8, article 4, transportation impact fee of the Silverton Municipal Code, authorizing the collection of the transportation impact fees. Take it away, John.
Okay, this ordinance is coming before you by direction of the board. Back on the October 28th meeting, we had identified some loopholes in the transportation impact fee ordinance that we wanted to tighten up. And that's what you see before you tonight. We are giving basically an opportunity for local contractors to come before the Public Works Director and file an objection if they feel that they're being targeted. When I say targeted, I mean what I felt that we're trying to avoid is targeting a contractor who's hauling through town for their own business, mobilizing their own equipment, doing anything that is not easily passed on. We also wanted to include all streets and not just Green Street, because the other streets are also very expensive to maintain. I think that's it. If you all had a chance to look at the changes to the code, do you have any questions?
Thanks, John. It's pretty helpful that we have strike throughs here. Were there any questions from the board on the changes?
John, I've got a question for you. This is Ron.
Sure.
You said that this would be for outside businesses, so it would be exempt if you were a local business. If I were to be a man from out of town, want to build, say, 12 homes, could I come here and apply for a business license in town and be exempt from the hall?
I think that if that came before me, that I would refer it to the board. I think that
Go ahead, John.
my understanding is we're trying not to target local established contractors. If someone is looking for a loophole like that, I wouldn't be comfortable making a call and saying, yes, you can do that, or no, you cannot. I think that I would take that to the board for a decision.
Great, thank you.
And I think too, it was kind of going back to this idea on what can be sort of passed on. Like the burden is not necessarily on the local hauler, it's on the sort of like entity or owner of the project. So. I have a feeling that we'll still have some things that come before us that will be a bit nuanced on this point.
And this is a young ordinance, and what I've found in my experience is that ordinances often need some tweaking, and you can tweak it again. But I think this is our best crack at it at the moment.
I was gonna say this kind of loophole, you just pointed out. I mean, should we address that now or just wait till it becomes an issue?
John, would you have any recommendations in the ordinance on how to address the loophole? I mean, I'm thinking it would be, we have like page 80 of the packet,
I think that it is addressed in that change that we made in Part E. The fee established herein will have a negative impact on a local business solely. Well, if I mean, we could address that now or with another draft, but I think if there's a question about that, maybe we should say an established business of X amount of years. You know, you could say 5 years even.
Also, I typically don't issue business licenses to people that don't have a physical business in town. If somebody came down to me downstairs and said, I want a business license, and they don't have an actual business here, I tell them no, right, so.
So a locally addressed business, but that might not necessarily answer the question either, because they could get a PO box or something along those lines.
So I think there has been a developer who does have a, like, they don't live
Yeah,
here, but they
yeah,
have a local.
yeah.
PO box. Yeah.
To me, it's the second step of the cost being passed on, like, what we were addressing when we heard from Tony was talking about the impact to the hauler themselves, not being able to charge the cost for that to the project. And so what I see us doing in E is it says that is not easily passed on to the entity or owner. It seems like we're making an exception when it can't be easily passed on to the entity or owner. But like if you were a developer hiring a hauler and we're charging you the impact fee, you are the entity or owner. I think the goal of this ordinance was to not put the burden on the hauler, but instead put the burden of payment on the entity. So to say, we could say the same thing about the EPA, like the EPA is the owner or entity, those individual haulers that got hired are not being required to subsume that cost. A developer that is needing to haul a variety of materials for a project is the owner or entity, and we're not trying to put the burden of payment on that individual hauler. Right? I mean, yeah.
That's the way I understand it.
So does the board feel comfortable that the current change on section 8-7-70, it says an entity or owner determined to be subject to this ordinance may file an objection to the TIF only at the time of such determination or within 7 calendar days. Concurrent with the filing of the objection, the applicant must submit an alternative impact fee analysis. If the alternative impact fee analysis at the discretion of the public works director establishes by clear and convincing evidence that A, it is more reasonable than the study underlying this section, B, it is no less rigorous than that used to establish the fees set forth here, and C, the fees established herein will substantially impact the viability of the applicant's development. D, the fee established herein will have a disproportionate impact on the applicant's development in relation to other applicants. E, the fee established herein will have a negative impact on a local business solely that is not easily passed on to an entity or owner. And the alternative fee analysis study meets all state and town statutory requirements for impact fees. Then the director may adopt the alternative fee set forth by the applicant, which will be applicable only to the application issue. Does the board feel like the new addition of E accomplishes what we all seem to be nodding and saying we're trying to accomplish? I see Lindsay feels comfortable.
Yeah.
We think it is.
I think there's a good, yeah, see how it goes. I guess like in this scenario, sorry, this is just me trying to get clarity here, like to this point of someone from Montrose could come in, have PO box, local, their developer, our like local hauler, but want to be exempt from the fee because they're a local contractor theoretically, and also hire a local hauler, so they'd be exempt, but they are still having an impact on the roads.
Yeah, but
Would they need a physical address though? or not?
But there's a difference between. Like if they're doing their own hauling,
Mhm.
are they're not still exempt from. From the fee that goes to their developer, right?
It's just about where they're passing on the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, so, I mean, if I'm doing a development and I hire one of the local guys, obviously I have to pay. If I have my own hauling company, but I'm doing the development, I still have to pay for the movement of the stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not exempt just doing my own company. And I don't know, I feel like it's something that we could see, I'm just not sure that, I don't know.
yeah,
It seems like it could be. I don't know, could be a lot of work too,
yeah,
but
Right.
also, I don't know, I mean, what are the, I guess, how much money did they save? Because obviously people will do it, if it wouldn't want, so, I don't know.
This ordinance is a little bit challenging to implement. And it's also really important. And we're trying to strike the balance on recouping the cost in appropriate ways while not significantly adversely impacting local contractors.
mhm,
You know, if we were a really big city that was just kind of looking at this very black and white administratively, it would probably just, here's traffic impact fee, this is what you have to pay regardless. I think we do things a lot more nuanced, I think even our land use code shows that. So I think it will be likely that we will have certain things come before the board. So I guess my question to John and to staff is, do you guys feel like there are any other things we need to do to this ordinance to keep buttoning it up, I guess is the word I used for lack of a better phrase, or anything else we want to kick back to Clayton for his perspective on the like implementation and execution of this?
That would be my suggestion. If you want to, let's say we have essentially 3 excavation contractors in town. If you just want to protect them, then, and this doesn't cut it, which I understand why. Then I would recommend having Clayton draft it.
Has Clayton reviewed this most recent change?
He has.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm fine moving forward, I think I'm just thinking about like all of the things we're not seeing. And I mean, I don't know if it's not, like what will happen, yeah, but people find loopholes, there are loopholes. Absolutely. I don't know if I wanna call it a loophole, but like just, look at,
Right, right. Is this similar to the RV ordinance where we have done enough work on this that we want to move forward? We've passed this previously and we revised it. We're here now with a new revision. And should we move forward and again, revisit it as things come up and as we see cases that say, huh, we didn't think about that, and.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
what we need to do with a lot of these ordinances too.
Okay.
I mean, there's gonna be unintended consequences for everything we pass. Being able to address them when they come up.
Jim, want to give you a chance to weigh in here if you had a comment?
I say we move forward. Let's do it.
77 has the motion, page 77.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance amending chapter 8, article 4, transportation impact fee of the Silverton Municipal Code, authorizing the collection of a transportation impact fee.
Second.
Roll call, please, Melina.
Trustee Hellerson.
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield.
Yes.
Trustee Schiffern.
Yes.
Trustee Gardner.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper.
Yes.
Mayor Crankler.
Yes. Great, thanks, John, and just be in touch as things come up that you want us to think about again.
Sounds good.
Great. All right, moving on to agenda item 4B, employee handbook amendments. This is also a great P and O committee. Way to go, P and O committee.
Yeah, and we were going to amend this memo to strike out the areas that we are still working on. So I wanted to highlight that. So the areas that we're still working on, so our proposed changes include first, the introductory period. They weren't, it's just a kind of an admin thing there. Employment classification, so going from 40 hours a week to 36 hours per week to qualify for benefits. Anything worked over, overtime wouldn't kick in until after 40 hours a week. Comp time wouldn't kick in until after 40 hours a week, but you would be able to keep your benefits if you work 36 hours a week. And then, the employee benefits, we had section 301, that should all be striked through right now because we did not decide on that one. That was something that we are still looking at.
Oh, no, this is the wrong memo.
I know.
I wrote a whole nother memo.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Oh, no, I wrote a whole different memo for this.
Oh, no, Lena, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Do you want to walk through the rest of it? I knew you were taking notes, so I just kind of jumped in.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, no, I wrote a whole different memo for this. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And the retirement plan, so number, oh, I just jumped out again. Sorry, I'm having trouble with this.
That's frustrating.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Did you just not say, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
So this was our memo for our P&O committee.
Yeah, this
This
is,
was
no,
the
this
one,
is the
yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
this is totally wrong. This is the wrong one. I'm so sorry.
And then we wanted to make sure that we capped out comp time at 60 hours. We did have some incidences where people are going over, but we want to say, no, you don't get any more than 60 hours of comp time. Because that's meant to just be spending down that extra time that you are at work, basically. And so trying to get people out of the office if they are going way over their comp time. And then the retirement plan is going to implement in 2026, going to change in 2026, and that would be a contribution of 4% rather than 3%. So an increase in the retirement plan. We did look at other communities and it is anywhere from, up to 13%. So we are a little low on our retirement plans here. So we're trying to maybe incrementally bump those up when we can.
And that's 4% of annual salary. And is it matching, so you?
Yeah, so the employer, or the employee and the employee.
Yeah.
Employee and the employer are contributing both.
Right, the town doesn't automatically contribute 4% if the employee is not contributing 4%. Or do you?
No, they haven't contributed.
Once we reach 1 year, it's an automatic. We put in 4 and 10. We match.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Right now it's at 3, but we're
Yeah.
bumping it up to 4 in 2026. So bummed.
And then the final one was the classification and compensation plan. That is just a recommendation from myself, is wanting a formal compensation plan in 2022. I looked into it, it was $5,000 to do a plan, so I thought I could do it myself through CML. But I really can't do it myself, I'll be completely honest. So at some point, I'd really like to prioritize that, and you can talk more about that in our retreat. So I guess, the suggested motion here would be, approve the, we're gonna call this the 2025 employee handbook edits. This is actually the 2022 handbook. And then, with the exception of the proposed family benefit coverage. So that would not be included.
Any other comments, thoughts from the P&O committee?
No, I mean, I think we're just looking for other options, it's why we didn't, approve it right away, it does have quite a big budget impact, so.
The family. And I think, again, Silverton, we are competing with our surrounding regions for recruiting people as well. And also, I think the town, the county, the school, I think it's not common in any of those entities to offer benefits. But it could be something that we can think about for the future for recruitment and retention. I mean, I'll just say that a couple board retreats ago, like staff recruitment and retention was super important. It was a top priority. We were seeing so much turnover that so many things were not happening at home, right? And I think we've really seen a slowdown of that turnover, and that's been huge. And I would also encourage us to like not lose sight of that as a priority, because every time we use people have to be trained them and all that, it's costly. So thinking of ways that we can keep finding ways to retain our staff, and I think we're doing a really good job of just raising standards and performance. So trying to balance that. Other comments on the suggested changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 employee handbook edits, updates and revisions, with the exception of the proposed family benefits coverage outlined in section 3.
Second.
Roll call please, Miranda.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield?
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Garber? Yes. Mr. George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Cranko?
Yes. Thanks, and thanks Gloria for getting this up and running in 2022. All right, moving on to 4C, employment agreement for Clayton Buckner.
And unfortunately, he's out this week, so I'll present this one. The attorney is currently contracted, a contracted employee hired by the Board of Trustees. And he's requesting to become a part-time employee, due to a role change. And I think he's the GA now, so he needs to be working directly with the municipality that he's serving. So he has written these employment agreements for the municipalities he's serving and going on to a salary basis. I kind of gave you guys a rundown of the current contract rate that he has is 190 an hour. Last year, he worked 178 hours for us. Year before was 189, 220 hours. So in the 2025 budget, we have allocated 49,000 for legal. 10,000 of that legal service is reserved for special projects related to the land use code. So for the purpose of this discussion, we have about 39,000 to allocate towards the attorney's salary. And then I kind of break it all down from there. I can go through the memo if you like, but. The only caution I would say is moving from contracted position to the salaried position is less burden on the contracted attorney. So the hourly rate could be adjusted to justify those 10 hours a week. And there's no time limit set in the draft contract. I just wanted to point that out. This was a contract written by Clayton to you all. And if you wanted to have a discussion with him, I wasn't aware he was not going to be here today until today, so you could potentially table this for the next meeting to discuss it with him if you'd like.
I mean, I'd be in favor of tabling just to hear from Clayton.
Other more thoughts? As a part-time employee, does he still go through like the similar like performance reviews and? things like
And that would be up to the discretion of the board, and if that's something that you would want to include in his employment contract.
Mhm.
The only other part-time salaried employee we have is our municipal judge.
Mm.
And historically, with Clayton as a contractor, we have done a performance review.
Yes.
Yeah. And regardless, this contract is at will, right? There's like,
Yes.
it's a contract for a year, but either party can end it.
Mhm.
This is, sorry. Sorry, when we talked, this is kind of like the option for him, as his new role as like a DA, right? So it's
Right.
like him or.
Right, so he won't, he is not allowed to be a contracted employee for a municipality. And I did check with Colorado Municipal League, and that's pretty standard practice.
So if he's not salaried, he won't be able to be our lawyer anymore.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the case.
It seems like the one point of question you had, Gloria, was whether we should amend it to have it be 10 hours a week.
Yeah, there's no time on there that he's committing to in his contract.
Oh, right. I
Like,
think,
there's no 10 hours per week or 7 hours. per
yeah,
week
I think
in
that would
actual
be the only
contract.
piece I want to clarify with Clayton, and or we can just insert it, is I would like some sort of commitment of hours per week. That would be my preference. I don't know what staff feels about that, but I would like, this is kind of the base level of service. I mean, obviously it outlines like all the things he does for us, but I would prefer to have an hour week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like 10 hours a week.
I would maybe construct it as like 40 hours a month. I think that might make
Cause
sense.
it could flex.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
1 week, so do one, put 1 week.
But I do think that's important, I do think it's worth noting, and the burden is shifted away from him on some administrative things, if he's an employee. Contractor.
Mhm.
I'm good with 40 a month as well.
Do we need to ask him?
Yeah, I can take this back to him, he'll be back in the office next week, and then bring it back to you all for final approval on March 10th.
And then how do you feel about the 40 hour a week, or 40 hour a month approach?
Yes, I definitely wanted to define the time, so I appreciate that.
And sorry, maybe dumb question, maybe not. He won't have to be here, right? Like he can still join from both.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's a long drive.
Yeah, that's
sorry,
fair.
sorry, it's long, it's long.
Well, and
Yeah, it's a lot of this time.
in the contract, we had something in there about being in person. It was a certain,
Once every
Oh, I missed that.
quarter.
yeah, something
Okay.
like that. And I don't know if it's been in a while, and so maybe we wanna specify like, hey. It's just always great to all be
We
together.
do that for paying for driving time too, though.
We
And the
do.
mileage.
Yeah.
I think it is valuable to.
So I have discouraged a couple of times when he wanted to drive
Yeah.
over, because I didn't feel it was worth our time and he
And
could
the
just
budget.
give the same type of advice over there, so. I wanna say it wasn't him not
Yeah,
trying to do
yeah,
that, I
yeah.
just discouraged it because I didn't see the value in it.
Yeah, I think I would do that to your description.
Yeah.
Really long time. Jim, I wanna make sure you can speak up if you have any comments on this. Are you good with where we're going?
I am, being able to restructure the contract so that we can maintain council, I think is smart. And then also having the flexibility that, if this change isn't working out for the town of Silverton, that we can amicably part ways. I like that.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, so it sounds like we're not looking to approve or deny this contract now because we're gonna make changes.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Okay, so moving on, everybody good to move on? Okay, all right, moving on to consent agenda with the note that we've added the Baker's Park resolution. Again, that isn't any commitment of funds or staff time, it's just a letter of support for that grant submission. And that was added as 5G, and it is updated in the Google Drive packet.
And there is, also included is December financials, which I will be reviewing in depth with the finance committee on Tuesday. And there's also a contract with John Sykes to stay as the operator of the water and wastewater plant until our crew gets certified, so it's currently written until December.
Thanks. Any more comments, questions on the consent agenda?
Oh, and the base law. Special event is
That
on there.
sounds fun. No, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. That's so moved.
Second,
Go ahead, sorry.
Trustee Robertson,
Yes.
trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Schnittker,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
yeah,
Mayor Pro Tem Harper,
Yes.
Mayor Crankey.
Yes. Great, thanks. All right, moving on to item 6, staff reports.
All right, and so we have a sad last staff report in there from Mr. Sykes, since he will be leaving us on the 28th. So I'd really like to thank him for his service 10 years with the town as in all of his roles, and he's refusing to put on his camera right now, which is fair. I'm sure he's crying like coming down.
He's not wearing a party?
that's a part of that.
Yeah.
But I would just like to thank him for his service.
Thanks, John.
It's been a pleasure working with you all. You're a great group, and appreciate your leadership as a community member, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, John, for the support in the transition. I think that'll be really valuable for whoever comes behind you. So thanks for moving a lot of really important things forward, and some things just stay on that staff report because it's so hard to get traction on them. So I appreciate the intentionality. Gloria, your staff report really calls to mind how important it is that we do a trustee retreat soon to triage the many variety of things on this report. So I think it'll be really important. You know, we were kind of joking about this earlier, but it's good for the community to remember that all these things that come across our plates, all these ordinances, all these issues that come up, summer, winter, spring, fall, etc., are all important. They're all things that people in our community care about, that we need to do to help us operate better as a town. And sometimes we have to say wait, sometimes we have to say yes, but not now. And so I just think it's a good reminder as we kind of prepare to go into our retreat to just think, okay, what can we really do? We have an administrator who's able to do way more than most people. And we just also have to be attentive. And I really appreciate that this board has been able to say no to some things that have been hard. And so I look forward to our retreat. It's gonna be so fun. Oh my God. Gloria, anything else you wanted to call out from your staff report? Or questions from the board on it?
I'll take any questions. So ski joring still looking good to start this weekend?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
I know.
We have been moving forward.
Can't ask that question.
It's a tough one.
It was like, I just need to make it.
We really, we're putting everything we have into it if
Hopefully, yes.
yeah, if the weather can cooperate.
Okay, great.
But we made it snow. Hopefully,
Yeah. So we just now hope everybody can get it. They may be riding the horses into town because no one's driving. Let's hope not.
I would ask everyone to light a candle, do a dance, say a prayer.
For more snow or less snow? What are we after here?
Snow now.
Okay.
Need all of the above. I want snow. We need snow.
It's tiny. Yeah.
Snow now, skies on Saturday.
Yes, okay, yeah.
so we're all, yeah. Ready to jump when we need to.
Thanks to the
But
staff.
that's a fair
It's
question.
exciting.
So it's your skin ready to jump.
Ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Good time, right?
All right, thanks, guys. All right, committee and board reports. I don't think we had any. Did anybody have any that they remember? No. Okay.
Okay, I was really excited to find some.
Trustee reports? Anybody have anything? No? No. Okay, thanks staff for snowscape. Unfortunately, many of the typical cardboard derby racers were at a ski race in Monarch, so we were all very bummed to miss that. I had 3 racers who were sad to know. Yeah. Thanks to staff for putting that on. I heard it was fun. All right, continued business. We don't have any, so moving on to public comment. We have no in-person comment. Do we have any online public comment? Looks like we do. We'll promote you to panelist. You can introduce yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hey, can you hear me?
You can, go ahead.
Of all of the attorneys I have seen come and go in 45 years I've lived here, you need to work to keep this one. He's very good at saving you from yourselves. Thank you.
Do we have any other input of online public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment and I will adjourn the meeting at 7:39.
Wow.
That's the shortest.
Life's good.
record.
You got her